Django?
Weird.
Roman genuinely doesn't like to have his bosom touched.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Roman, I'm sorry for all the times I've probably touched your bosom.
I don't think you ever have.
All right.
I've done it
It's all
enough for
Jeff.
everybody.
I have a photo of me doing it.
What?
Welcome to a perfectly acceptable podcast, episode 145, where every week these lovely friends and lovers gather together after having read many a comic book in the comic shop that they love. They get together, they hold hands, we hold hands, we get into the giant glass papsculator, and we ride up the pap tower to the pap cave, which is now a bit of a pent pap house, and we engage in a podcast where we share camaraderie and opinions and love for the comic books that we all have in common. We do so looking through the giant glass windows in the penthouse pap tower and look down at the city below us and feel a sort of sense of, for sure, superiority because we're so high up, but also a general sense of oneness with everything that is around us, either related to or unrelated to the comic books, the shop, or the comings and goings of our lives. I'm Jeff. That one got a little long in the tooth.
I'm Roman, and I just wanted to add, I love that scene when the pap median gets thrown out of the penthouse in the sky, and yeah.
So
Oh, right.
who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
I'm
Django, I saw you this morning, and you said that you were definitely giving out some Wolf tickets today. Now, I've seen you all day, and I told you if you hadn't given those tickets out by the time we recorded this podcast,
chance.
I was going to pull those Wolfies out of you on this podcast.
Oh, you'll get them all right.
I believe so. I've seen Django in a lot of emotional states that are all mostly just the one. I've never seen him so in the camp of Wolf ticket as he was today.
Yeah,
Do you want to talk about him?
I first thing I did today was drop 2 tills on the floor.
I've always
100% my fault.
nightmared about that.
Nothing could have been done, and luckily I was early to work. So instead of spending a half hour doing whatever, I don't even remember what I was planning to do when I got in early today, but I definitely didn't. I counted change and picked up change off the floor for a half hour. Shit the bed and dropped the till. Passed out a Wolf ticket. Hey, today, can we talk about something?
Please.
Can we talk about Batman Superman #1?
Please.
And Spider-Man Life Story #6?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #11?
Jeez, yeah.
How about Marvel 1000?
I'll do a Marvel 1000 minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ice Cream Man number, 14?
Yeah, I like that
Okay.
one.
Marvel Monsters. Is it Marvel Monsters or is it just Monsters?
I think it's just Monsters.
Okay. Number 1?
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that there's a CMYK joke in Dial H for Hero #6. So
yeah.
I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe House of 10, House of X, House of 3.
Yeah.
House of Powers of 3 of X.
Shlee.
Yes. And I think that we should not talk about Action Comics number 1014 because it has Naomi in it, and if Roman starts talking shit on Naomi and Bendis tonight, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna give him a Wolf ticket, and I don't think he's ready.
Here's a moment.
I'd like to frame a Wolf ticket, actually.
Wolf ticket. Marvel Comics 1000, which is not what we're going to start by talking about. But it is a lot of pages. 80 creators were involved. And it just made me realize that Bendis was not one of them because he doesn't work there anymore. And that's a little bit sad because I can't think of, in the last 15 years, a writer that is more Marvel than Bendis. Seems a little sad to me.
I noticed that, too, because the Jessica Jones page, it wasn't Bendis.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say it was good. Get it? Because Roman doesn't like
He
Bendis.
fucking hates
I don't
him.
hate
I know.
Bendis.
He
No, I don't.
Oh, he hates him.
I don't hate
Listen,
him.
ladies and gentlemen, go back a couple of episodes and listen to Roman talk about his Naomi comic.
Yeah, the final issue of Naomi that he gives a 2, and then I just called him out for it, and then felt guilty about it for like 3 days. I shouldn't have called him out. Everyone has the right to an opinion. What's my fucking problem? Batman Superman #1 by Joshua Williams and David Marquez, and
Not Bendis.
not Bendis at all, in fact. And then the colorist is Alejandro Sanchez. This book was so gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree. It looked really good. The gory parts were super gory.
Yeah, it was very bloody.
And I liked it a whole lot more than I expected to.
Right?
The twist at the end. Oh, we're going to have spoilers.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, sponsored by people who have the birthday of August 29th.
Not me.
Not you, but Hurricane Katrina.
And a lot of people.
Yeah, Jay. Michael Jackson. Congratulations, everybody.
Wow.
So this issue starts with a weird sequence of Batman talking to Superman, and Superman flies to like a space station, and there's a whole bunch of horrible murder had happened, and then there's Kryptonian, and it gets in him, and he starts dying. And then it goes to Earth Zero now. Do we know who that was or where that was? I was distracted because it had Superman not with red trunks, which means it was New 52 Superman?
This was Dark Metal Universe Superman. So this is where the Batman Who Laughs came from.
Okay.
Is how I read it.
Okay.
It is? I thought
Just
it
these
was...
first couple pages.
Oh, yeah. Before he gets to the Justice League satellite.
Yeah.
Or
And the whole Justice League satellite was that universe, right?
so this isn't our current Superman?
No, he doesn't have red trunks on. And then
Also, he died.
Oh.
and he died. And then it goes Earth Zero now. But we just didn't get an initial time for that's I was just asking because I was confused by it and I didn't know.
I read it as this is how Batman Who Laughs defeated Superman on his world
Oh, okay.
with the Kryptonian dust in the air. And I thought that was awesome.
But man, page 6 and 7. That double page spread of Dave Marquez, like just a glory shot of Superman and Batman with like a really interesting angle as well. Like
Out.
it's a out, but it's all I don't know. I really like the coloring of this. I think since Rebirth and Patrick Gleason, like we've been drawing Superman in a deeper blue and like a more saturated red than he was for a long time, and I really like Dave Marquez's art. He's an artist who has worked with Bendis a lot. That was who I first saw him working with. And when Bendis came over to DC, he also came over.
Yeah.
And this is sort of his first big DC book, but he's just killing it. I think, for me, the big story of this issue was how beautiful the art was.
Yeah, and Josh Williamson doing a good job, and Billy Batson showing up at the end.
Yeah, Roman, what did you think about this book?
I also liked it more than I thought it would. Yeah, the art's beautiful. At first I was a little like, oh yeah, the usual kind of Batman-Superman banter with Batman pointing out their differences and how different they are, and Superman going, come on, let's be buds. We are buds. But I ended up liking it a lot more than that. And I especially was surprised because I don't care about the Batman Who Laughs, but in this I thought he was kind of interesting. The whole infection virus thing is interesting. And yeah, the final reveal with Billy Batson, that was really cool.
So, am I wrong in remembering that at some point either Billy or Shazam got hurt and they switched over to let the other one heal? Or am I thinking of another superhero that changes bodies like that?
Is that Miracle Man has that I mean, Miracle Man has that happen, but I don't know if that's the story that you're thinking about.
Maybe so.
I do love getting a scene of a Batcave, and I liked the visual representation of the Batman Who Laughs Batcave.
It's very familiar and a little bit wrong.
Yeah, like it's clearly a Batcave, but it's just a fucked up version. I don't know. Guys, I'm just kind of conflicted about the Batman Who Laughs.
I
am too.
I don't love it. I don't love his costume, and I really don't like kind of worldwide infection stories, and that's basically all we've really gotten from him.
Yeah, Metal was rather different, but he wasn't even the big villain of it. But and this isn't like to be talking about the quality of this book is a separate thing. I think that this is a very quality book, but a thing that has been on my mind is like we had I think part of my issue with The Batman Who Laughs is that we had Dark Knight's Metal, and it ended up being way more successful than they anticipated. And they added all these one-shots, and they went all these additional printings. And it seems to me that they were like, we got to keep the sort of popularity of this character in this event alive, so let's make the Batman Who Laughs comic series, which they did. And they put that out. And then it was like, man, we had a lot of people reading that. I don't know, we need to do something else with him. So
Extended an issue.
Yeah.
Make another comic.
And then they've made another series where he's the villain. And I don't think that that's bad, because you could almost say the same thing about Donny Cates when you take a step through the creaky iron that is the Cates gate at the center of the mind's eye. But he, it was sort of like he had that Thanos run, and then like Cosmic Ghost Rider, and then he gave him the main series. And there's an amount of like finding out what's working and then keep doing it. I don't have a problem with that, but this one feels a little bit more transparent to me.
Yeah, I feel like begging DC for mercy. Like, just back off for a second.
Yeah, give it a year. Let him come back.
Let this guy breathe.
Yeah.
You don't even have the Joker in as many comics as this asshole is in. And I would love to see the Joker in a comic every week.
I do really like his design. I know that it is a lot like Judge Death, but I'm into it.
It's not a lot like it. It's exactly like it.
Okay. I love Judge Death's design as well. Not taking it away from him.
If it's 12 issues versus the Batman Who Laughs, I'm going to probably fall off on it. But if it's 12 issues of just Batman and Superman having adventures, I'm probably going to read them all.
I think that it was kind of pitched as it's the big mystery of them trying to solve who these infected people are. And we know that there's like at least 3 infected. This is sort of introductory to this whole concept. It's not like reinventing anything massive. Like David Marquez can put out a monthly book, and his art is gorgeous. So if he stays on this book, that will really increase my desire to read it. I did enjoy it quite a bit. I'm not super into the Batman Who Laughs, but not a lot of really complex thoughts on this one. I do love this sort of nightmarish world of where the Batman Who Laughs was from, and that horrible plastic man up, like just distorted, and all the dead Justice League members in the space station. Spoilers for the end of the Batman Who Laughs series, but in issue 7 we learn, it's been a while now, so I'm sorry, spoilers everybody, but avoid
Read your shit faster.
But we learned that Commissioner Gordon is infected.
Yeah, which says to me that by the end they're going to find a cure.
Yeah, because we can't lose Gordon, although we did, spoilers, lose Alfred last week, so...
Yeah. I was wondering about that because I didn't read that series, but the last time we see Gordon in this, he does a little giggle.
Got this Dark Crystal Age of Resistance ad on the back of it. Looks pretty good. Never seen the Dark Crystal. This makes me kind of want to see it.
Now we've been relegated to talking about the ads on the back of the comic.
Oh, gosh. I love
But you're right. It
comics.
does look awesome.
This week, you're going to get a lot of ad talk from Jeff. This was... I really enjoyed some books this week, but didn't get to read a ton of them so far, and none of them knocked me back.
Who's your first love, Jeffrey?
Kelsey Gaucher.
Not Kira, the Gelfling?
I would give it a 7.5. And mostly built on the art. The story is totally fine, but nothing special. But the art, I think, is really beautiful. Dave Marquez has been one of my favorite artists for quite a while.
7.5 also. And I just noticed that there's a Superman symbol in the Batarang, the poison Batarang, that Shazam is about to smash into soups at the end.
Gelfling.
I'm gonna ride on your 7.5 train.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a perfect estimation.
You are one precious Gelfling, Roman.
I wish I knew what the Gelfling sounded like. I would make a Gelfling noise. That sounds like Burgess Meredith as the Penguin.
I'm having a really hard time with Roman as a Gelfling, Jeff.
Is it because
I just told you my entire sexual awakening was based around the Dark Crystal, and
was it really?
Hi, Django.
A lot of it for you?
Hi, Django.
Oh, Roman.
Oh, Gelfling.
I love your wings.
Definitely one of my first erections was watching Batman get dressed in the live-action movies. Putting his costume on.
There are a lot of live-action movies this could have been.
Well, no, there couldn't have been because it was like
Adam
94.
West? Oh.
I mean,
It was definitely like the Tim Burton Batman.
Okay, the first two.
But there's a lot of rubber and a lot of body and a lot of being, bound and bondage.
Dude, I got some Christmas ideas for you.
Man, we are going to talk about comics, but probably more other stuff today. So everybody, don't let this be your first
The comings
issue.
and goings of our lives.
Wolf sex tickets.
Yeah, episode 145, Wolf Sex Tickets. Tell us about your awakening.
It was the Gelflings.
Man, I said it out loud. I'm trying to think of, like, when was my awakening? What does that even mean? Like, when did I learn that I could...
Yeah, all right. So, full disclosure, it was not a sexual awakening. I just thought Kira was really pretty.
Gelflicious.
Kira the Gelfling, I was like, oh, she's really pretty. And then she has wings, and I was like, I have always wanted to fly, and I would like to fly around with her.
So did you really have a crush on her?
I mean,
how old were you?
I knew she was a puppet. I don't know, whenever it came out, however old I was. I saw it in the theater. I'm just glad it wasn't Fizzgig, because that would have been weird.
Fozziewig?
Fizzgig.
Spider-Man Life Story number 6. No segues tonight, just a bunch of crickets when Django says a thing. By Chip Zdarsky, Mark Bagley, Drew Hennessy, Frank Darmata. This is the end of the Spider-Man Life Story series that we have basically talked about every issue of.
Yeah.
We've really liked. It's been emotionally up and down.
It's been like Mark Bagley on his C game.
Yeah, Mark Bagley. Well, I think the beginning of it was a little bit better Bagley than I'd seen in quite a while.
I feel like an asshole because it's not his fault. He's drawing like he draws, and it's not bad. It just didn't. It wasn't appropriate.
I had a person in this week that was like they were really liking Bagley on this series.
Yeah,
they were glad to see him back.
Yeah, I think he did a good job on the art. I just thought it was. God, we got to cut this out. We have beat this guy up on every episode that we've talked about this issue, and we've talked about every issue of it.
I don't think we've beaten him up too much. He did some of the most important comic booking that's ever been done. He kept Marvel alive. We know that. His art's a little bit dated nowadays. It's okay.
This and the New Warriors.
New Warriors kept Marvel alive?
Well,
if you're
when
Roman.
they were big, he was the artist. Yeah, he was the artist on them.
What did you guys think of the end of this series? Like, going into it, there's been a lot of darkness in this series. Like, just sort of, it's a bummer to be Spider-Man.
I thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was a really...
I haven't read it. I don't know.
Oh, fuck, Roman. I keep looking at you like you're worth anything at all.
No, it's still in my to-read pile.
Fuck Roman.
Well,
Hello,
it keeps
Gelfling.
coming back to fucking Roman with you. So what did you think about the end of it?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I don't quite have enough of a Spider-Man vocabulary to understand parts of it. And in the beginning, when they were setting up what they were going to do, I was like, man, this is convoluted. Like, if I don't know what's going on here, we have to go to this doomsday machine and lab in the sky, and Dr. Doom's doing this thing. And it just felt like really exposition heavy for no real reason other than I'm assuming to touch on a classic Spider-Man story that we should know by now. And I might be reading that totally wrong. I thought that their helmets were a little bit dumb.
I think those costumes when they were in space were pretty dumb.
Yeah, I see why. I had a long sit and think about it.
I love that about you, Gungi.
Because they just wore them so that you could tell the difference between Peter Parker and Miles.
Listen, I know that you don't want to keep tearing down Peter Bagley, but what I will say is
Mark Bagley.
Yeah, Peter
Get his
Bagley.
name right.
Peter Baggy.
You sack of Skeksis.
It's Gelfling. I don't think he's the best at innovating costume design. I don't think that he's super good at like giving a new costume to a thing.
No, Pete's costume in this is really goofy.
And I think Peter Bagley is one of the most important comic artists in Marvel, and I'm joking, Mark Bagley. But I guess I want to take advantage of talking about this series as a whole and the things that it did right and the things that I think it could do better on. I think that it's really impressive how well Chip Zdarsky kind of took elements of so many different stories and squished them together. The way that he got the Clone Saga in there, or the Moreland stuff from Straczynski's run, Kraven's Last Hunt, the Venom stuff. Even in this one, the way that they were able to bring in Dan Slott's Superior Spider-Man run to be such a big part of it and incorporate that into Miles. Like, it is really well done in that regard.
You got the clones, you got it all.
Yeah. I love seeing a character age through time. I think that it leaned a little heavy on like Peter. It was kind of a downer a lot, but I think I think he intended to do that. I think that for some reason that was his intention to do it. I would love to see this treatment given to other Marvel characters. I would like it to be like 3 issues per time period. Like every one of these issues I wanted more explored. I think a different artist for each time period would be a really good call.
Yeah, I thought it was really a pretty good ending and a really good series, and I'm glad I read it.
Not a perfect execution to me by a long shot, but I don't think the first time a thing is done, you would expect it to be perfect. And I think that this is hopefully paving the way for other books and other heroes to have this done. And hopefully they'll refine the idea a little bit more as it goes on. I would give this issue a 7, and I would give the series as a whole an 8.
I was going to give it the same.
Yeah, just a 1 Gath and 1 Thirth left.
Still gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to match you, Jeffrey. A whatever you said and a whatever you said.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 11 by Tom Taylor and Juan Cabal on art, and Rochelle Rosenberg doing the colors.
Dude.
Who else read this?
I did.
Roman?
Not me.
Okay, cool.
God damn it,
He's
Roman.
such a big spider guy, and yet.
They're both in my to read pile.
And yet.
He's a big spider guy who hates spiders. I'm
hate
sure
spiders.
every time he
spiders
looks at a Spider-Man
good.
comic, he's conflicted.
I am.
Yeah.
I hate that back symbol of his. The
Really?
back bow, there's actually no. Some artists draw like a really realistic spider shape on his chest, and some of them, I forget which artist. There's one in particular. I'm kind of like, ew, I don't want to read this.
So would you?
fucking coward.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I love you. I do wish you put a shirt on, though.
That taco
That's asking
meat,
too much.
that taco meat in your chest hair is bothering me.
Absolutely.
I like to snack while I'm doing the podcast.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying about gelflings.
Yeah, like if I don't have to, if I can't talk about a comic, I can just sit here and eat taco meat out of my chest hair.
I don't really get it. I don't really
Well,
get
look at him. I don't get it either, but he's doing it.
Friendly Neighborhood
Pass the
Spider-Man. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, boys.
I think you mean the Friendly Neighborhood Mary Jane.
Yeah, this issue was all a Mary Jane issue. It was bookended, started and ended with Peter Parker just beat up and tired after a thing, and it's the whole thing is sort of framed as Friendly Neighborhood Mary Jane. I was very confused on page 2 that they put this sort of comic book cover treatment to an image of her laying down, but like the way that they did it, I don't know. They illustrated where the cover would be, and then they just made these flat colors behind. There's a very weird effect going on in image or on page number 2.
I liked it.
Yeah. Everyone, we're uploading these podcasts to YouTube. So you all know, if you've been listening to this on podcast, that's great. Thanks for doing that. If you are somebody who is at a computer or you would rather listen to it on YouTube, we're also putting images of the covers on there and some of the panels that we're talking about. So feel free to go check out the YouTube channel. Django, what's the YouTube channel?
Comics Place. But there's an Italian guy, I think, who has a kind of a big podcast called Comics Place. I think he's Italian. And so if you just search Comics Place, you'll see a guy who doesn't shave as often as like a professional who works at a bank or something.
And that's why
would.
you say he's Italian?
No, it's all the characters, like the way that the words are spelled on his podcast.
Very weird that when we hired people, Django said, like, people will always ask how business casual, business formal is, and Django says, I don't know, just shave like you would if you worked at a bank.
Yeah, that's like a pretty low bar, I think. Like, anyway, search Perfectly Acceptable Podcast and you'll find it. Like us, subscribe, comment. What else
Like us, subscribe, comment. We don't know much about podcasting on the internet that is YouTube.
I feel pretty underqualified to be even like looking at comments on. You read the comments on YouTube, right?
You do, and hey, that's okay because this is us learning how to do it, and you don't learn how to do a thing until you feel courageous enough to do it ignorantly first. Kind of like Spider-Man life story. You can't expect the first time you do a thing to be perfect, but the next step's going to be easier than the first.
Jeff, we've moved beyond that.
Okay, sorry.
It's kind of like Friendly Neighborhood Mary Jane.
Spider-Man or Mary Jane number 11.
Mary Spider-Man Jane.
So this is really just a following Mary Jane around issue, and I really liked that because we haven't, like, Mary Jane's such an active part of the Spider-Man mythos, but she isn't, there's not a lot of depth to her character in a lot of the Spider-Man stories I've read. Does that feel fair to your guys' assessment of Mary Jane? You've read more than I have, Roman, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely periods when she's been a fleshed out character and there's been a lot more to her.
Yeah.
Not lately, but
I really like this one because it's about her, like, Peter has all this responsibility to the city and to everybody and everything. And she keeps saying he is her responsibility. So, like, he's got all this great responsibility, and her great responsibility is making sure that he's, you know, okay. And then she goes out and beats a troll in the subway and like manages kind of a scary, panicked situation very gracefully, saves a whole bunch of people, and then teams up with Miles to beat a troll who's left over from War of the Realms.
Yeah.
And then she goes back and wakes Peter up, and they just have like a couple of really sweet moments hanging out on the rooftop. And their back and forth in this book I thought was really, it felt really genuine. And I really enjoyed the way that their conversations mirrored each other when like he brings her bagels, and the conversation that they have is very similar to when she brings him pizza at the end.
Yeah.
They have a almost the same dialogue, but you can tell that Mary Jane's saying her parts the second time instead of Pete.
Tom Taylor is really good at writing heartfelt scenes. He is writing Deceased and a variety of other things. He wrote some War of the Realms stuff that Roman really liked. I guess my thing about this was that I thought it portrayed Mary Jane in a really positive way, and I liked her getting sort of the bulk of this issue. But the final line of dialogue, I had no problem with. But this was the final line of the dialogue. It was an inner monologue of hers in talking about Peter. She says, "He still puts other people's needs ahead of his own. It's just who he is. Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is my responsibility." And I guess the thought that made me have was just like, is that okay? Like, it felt a little bit almost like sort of saying like, and my spot's in the kitchen. Like, and it had a little bit of a sort of dated, like the woman's job is to take care of the man, and the man is out there doing the work. And I don't think that's what they're trying to say at all, but I didn't know if that execution of it felt like a little bit of a step backwards. Like, is that okay? Are people going to be upset about that? Fuck them if they are, but I could hear a response of people who want to be annoyed at something, saying that isn't a progressive way to be portraying her.
I think if you look at the rest of the issue, though, that's not it. Like, she's a total badass through that whole thing on the train. And she is fearless and graceful under pressure and rescues a whole bunch of people. And all while she's out running a kind errand for May.
Right.
And
yeah, that bit. What she goes on an errand with May, and it's to help May find wigs because she's in chemo and losing her hair. And the way that that was my favorite part of the whole issue, was just this, like, the way that she brought levity to this situation of looking for wigs, and sort of brought the, like, her love of fashion, and, like, she's like, what wig am I going to get? She's like, 1 wig? Let's get fucking 6 wigs.
Yeah.
And you know, that
wig
was
out.
Yeah, exactly. And I really liked that. But yeah, I agree. It seemed like the kind of thing that it's 2019. I don't know. I hear a lot of outrage with everything, justifiably in a lot of situations. So I just didn't know what your read on that was.
I hope there's not a whole lot of outrage about this, because
I don't think there has been.
I don't think it's deserved.
Yeah.
And I really think that it fit the character that was written in this story as a kind person who has a lot of responsibility that is often overlooked. And not in like a looking down on her way, just in Mary Jane's kind of a badass, and bet you didn't know that.
I'm the Mary Jane to Django's Peter Parker.
I'm not comfortable with this at all. Can you be the Gelfling to my Skeksis?
Oh, I'm not comfortable with this at all. What would you give this issue then, Django?
I'd give this issue a 9.5.
Wow. I give the cover a 10. I give the issue an 8.5.
It was their relationship that got me. Like by the end, I was like, fuck, she's just so kind.
Yeah.
In this whole thing, and obviously super into Peter. Just a really good kind of badass Mary Jane. Something shitty happens and she kind of takes control of it and uses her skill set to, make everything have a positive outcome.
Speaking of positive outcomes, Django, you and I were pretty nervous about Marvel Comics 1000, written and drawn by everyone. And
yeah, I thought they'd put out more than 1,000 comics by now, but I guess I'm
1,000?
wrong.
But Roman has a dog-eared, noted, tabbed out copy of this giant prestige format book.
It's 1,000 pages, right?
It's 1,000
pages.
And it's $1,000?
Yep.
No, it's 1,000 pennies.
Yeah. It is 1,000
Give or take
pennies.
a penny.
It's got a whole new grading point where it's 1,000 just across the board.
What was this book, man? I read
It's
10
Marvel's 80th birthday, basically. So they've got, I don't know if they have 80 creators in here, but they have a ton of creators. Basically, there's one overarching storyline, but each page is different creators, and some are just individual stories or individual themes using a character, but they're also Al Ewing wrote a bunch of connecting pages that gives a through line through the issue, but also from like the first Marvel comic up until 2020. So he's setting up this storyline.
And is the through line that there's this sort of
The through line
black
is
hooded starry figure?
yeah. The through line is that the Eternity Mask, which was first used. God, I love this. Was first used on this character called the Masked Raider, who was like maybe in Marvel Mystery Comics #1. I didn't look it up, but one of their original characters had this mask. It turns out this mask has some mystical qualities to it, and some really obscure Marvel characters from the Golden Age, the 3Xs, meet up with this detective from then.
Like 3 ex-husbands?
They're just the 3Xs because they're supposed to be unknown. And those guys, Ewing said, became the Science Guild, then later became the Enclave, which are the guys that did the experiments that created him, that then became Adam Warlock. And they've done all this trying to retain control of this mask that is now dubbed the Eternity Mask. I don't know if it was called that before, but that's what I love about this. Ewing, I assume Ewing took all these disparate pieces of Marvel history, some obscure Marvel history, and is connecting them all. And then it said in 2020 at the end of this, they're going to reveal who the Masked Raider is nowadays, because there's been like 2 or 3 Masked Raiders over the years.
And is it somebody who's wearing the mask?
Yeah.
So we just haven't seen them.
Yeah, the last page of this sets up who it is now. In 2020, the face under the mask is revealed.
It was basically the Black Hood.
Yeah, kind of. And then there's a in memoriam page for all these creators. And then there's another page which is really awesome. This is in the future with these guys again, the original 3Xs, and going into the Korvac, who's the guy from the future that killed all the Avengers.
Do you think it's Dr. Manhattan?
Korvac was basically Dr. Manhattan before Dr. Manhattan, yeah. But it's a lot of fun, and if you're not... Somebody may read this and go, I don't know what the heck's going on with all this stuff, but this is intriguing. I want to find out about this.
Do they have any creators in here that are a surprise?
You get a Cable written and drawn by Jeff Lemire.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was a surprise, yeah.
Miracle Man, we had known he was going to be in here, but that's pretty cool. That's like the first real putting him in the Marvel universe.
Is it by
Neil Gaiman?
Neil Gaiman?
Yeah. Mark Buckingham.
There's a Paul Hornschmier page that surprised me, based on Little Nemo, so just using Black Bolt.
Yeah.
And that was fun. One of my favorite pages, speaking of Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, there's a page in here because of her that Jerry Conway, who's the writer that was writing Spider-Man and who's the one that killed off Gwen Stacy, he writes a beautiful page in here, just Mary Jane talking to, you don't know who, but she's just talking about how she felt about Gwen, and the fact that when they first met, Gwen whispered in Mary Jane's ear, "We're going to be best friends." And she meant it. And Mary Jane, especially then, had this image of my protection, my wall was beyond being the party girl and everything and nothing serious and all that. Gwen, she knew she believed there was more to me, and she made an effort to be my friend and everything. And she talks about Gwen's death and all that, and how Mary Jane, she like stayed up with Peter all night after Gwen's death and everything, and everybody's like, oh, you were so so kind doing that for Peter, and Mary Jane says, I didn't do it for Peter, I did it for Gwen, to like honor the fact that she had faith in me.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And yeah, so there were some pages that, I didn't care about. It was the main story. Oh, this thing, they're building up the like kind of a new version of the 3Xs with Black Marvel, Night Thrasher, and Jimmy Woo.
That's such a bad name.
The 3Xs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I want to make sure that your 3X boyfriend thing, I don't want to acknowledge that when you said it, but that wasn't a dumb thing. You're very funny.
Oh, thanks.
I love you. I was listening to what he was saying at the time, and I want to make sure that you don't feel. I want you to feel confident about expressing your jokes.
It's better in your head if you think of X as in like an unknown, not X, not EXE.
What about like
unknown ex-husbands?
Pionio.
No, X, the letter X.
Pionio.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm really glad that you dug it. I was trying to be optimistic about it, and I couldn't get into the execution of it, but I'm really glad that you loved it. Oh, that's very good.
The XX execution.
My ex-husband's real. Oh, fuck. I guess I don't get it.
Yeah, Howard the Puck Taste page is so good.
I really like the full disclosure. I've only read a couple of pages while I was listening to Roman talk, but we're calling him Ben page by Brad Metzler. It's Spidey saves somebody, and
gorgeous Julian Tino Tedesco, and
the lady who he saves is like, I want to. Thanks for saving me. I want to name my child after you. What's your name? And he thinks for a second. He's like, Ben. My name's Ben. And then it shows like a montage of all these people naming their kid Ben because he's saved them. And I thought that was a really nice way to kind of honor his uncle who died in Crime Alley.
Yeah. For my grandfather, Ben. For Stan Lee. And for Theo and Jonas. What do you give this?
I'll give this a 10.
You fucking...
Oh, yeah.
You fucking clown.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even gonna...
And there's people here, I'm like, is that Namor? Who's that? Oh, my God. And I love that kind of mystery because...
You're a clown.
Did you see this beautiful Iron Man page, Django? Look at the way...
That's like a 16-panel grid.
Yeah.
Give me 9 or give me death.
There's a Deadpool page in here where Deadpool makes fun of the 9-panel grid.
In a 9-panel grid? Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Ice Cream Man number 14 by W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. Did you read this one, Roman?
Yeah.
Oh,
did you like the Howard the Duck page?
I did. And actually, look here on the cover. There's a little DC call out right there. That's Space Ranger and his girlfriend from Strange Adventures.
What is happening in there with you?
I don't know. I don't know how they're on there.
How do you get this stuff? How do you do it?
I recognize Space Ranger's costume. It's a yellow costume with
black and white image.
Well, I know, but he has a yellow costume. That's his helmet.
So the last issue of this was about palindromes. A lot of really abrupt sea changes in this episode. We're all tired. It's been a long day. Django verbally abused a lot of people today.
I told him.
Yeah, you did.
I told him.
I remember.
It's the weather, man.
The weather, man. Are you sure it's not the...
It was the weatherman. Man?
Wait, I didn't read weatherman.
The weatherman. Oh, I like that. Sidui. That's how they say it in Italy.
This would be top 5 or 6. Definitely, I would say top 5 Ice Cream Man issues for me, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think that this issue shows that this series has kind of constantly been pushing what you can do with comics. Like it is a progressive step in the comics medium.
And this issue is about a guy who's obsessed with crossword puzzles and at times becomes a crossword puzzle.
In the entire issue, there are these black and white square panels put into every page that mimic a crossword puzzle. So every page feels like a crossword puzzle. The dialogue is written as questions for crosswords.
Yeah. And the story feels a little bit like She Could Fly to me, where like the wife is imagining all the horrible things that these workers she's hired are doing. And it's clear for part of the issue that they're not, and she's a little bit nutty. And then for the other part of the issue, it's clear that they are. and she was right.
When were they right? Just as they were driving off, they were being evil?
Yeah, at the very end, they're actually being evil. And I think before he shows up at the end, I think that they are actually banging on her bedroom door. And getting ready to come in. And then it swaps out to him.
I really like that. I didn't interpret it that way, but I love a book where people can have different interpretations of what's going on. This book has constantly done that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super well done. I like this one more than the palindrome one.
Yeah, I do too. The
I do
palindrome one was not as clever as I had hoped it was going to be.
And even though I just said 9 panel grids all the way, this one is based on a 16, which
15.
5, 4, 20 panel grid. It's all squares.
I think it's
No.
5 by 3.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. You're better at counts than Dave.
Well, man, you coded the count app that we use, so you don't have to actually count. I love, I kept feeling like there were going to be giant boxes with words written in it, and then you get closer to the end of the issue, and that starts happening, and, images are fully represented. My girlfriend is really into crosswords. I just really liked when you do a lot of crosswords, your brain gets good at thinking like a crossword. The way that those words and questions are worded, it's a type of thinking. And I just liked that he was having this inner monologue that was basically question and answer in the form of crossword puzzle. Super interesting way of doing this.
Well, and he's kind of dealing with problems in his head by doing crossword puzzles. He doesn't have a great home life with his wife, and so I think that he's using crossword puzzles as a way to kind of work through that. And it's similar. I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but they were going through something. I was like, yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would need to sit down and build with Legos for about 3 days, because that's how I kind of work through a big, heavy question in my head.
And this issue did what many of these issues in this series have done, which is embody my biggest fear in life, which is to be trapped in a life that makes me happy that I'm stuck in, that doesn't make me happy that I'm stuck in. And there's this inescapable misery to it, and these people that are sort of stuck together, and they're just living this with regret and holding things in and trying to find stupid small reasons to have hope in life. And that's my biggest fear. And this book, as a series, kind of consistently comes back to that. Another great one.
Really cool.
This book is a gem. It is one of very few books that has slowly gained more and more subscribers, and it's not breaking the bank with the number of subscribers that it does have. But I really like when we're ordering comic books. I will oftentimes order a couple extra copies of books that I really, really like that I will worry are maybe on the verge of being canceled. I like to order a couple extra to sort of send a message to the publisher that this is a book we want made, and that can go either way, but this one has sort of slowly been consuming those shelf copies and slowly has needed to go up in orders. That's a really cool thing. Outer Darkness is one like that.
And this one is interesting in that you can just kind of jump in. There hasn't been a direct continuation on any single issue. There's menace that's been building since the first issue, and there is absolutely a larger story going on, but I don't think there's a single issue you could pick up that wouldn't be self-contained and make you want to either go forwards or backwards.
What would you give it, Roman and Django?
I also give this one a 10, actually.
Wow. Get that fish stick off of me.
And did you see in the crossword cover, it even has the issue number up there on the side of the pen?
That's very clever.
ICM 14.
And Braden pointed out that the clues are the creators' names.
Yeah.
The unfilled boxes.
Oh.
I give it a 9.
I would give it a 9, 9.5. Really high up there, really effective. Now, Roman, something that I definitely anticipate getting a 10 is Monsters #1 by Cullen Bunn himself, Scott Hepburn, and Israel Silva. You're the only. I ordered this book specifically for you.
Really?
And Cullen Bunn wrote Monsters Unleashed, and by the end of it, I think we had 1 subscriber. But you love monster books, so I ordered 5 of this.
I do, though I didn't read Monsters Unleashed. Well, I'm going to have to disappoint you because I'm not going to give it a 10.
Yeah! I ordered 5 of these for you.
I'll give you at least a 5.
Yeah.
This was fun. The main thing was, it starts off Kid Kaiju, the protagonist, the
That
hero
was
from
created in Monsters Unleashed.
Monsters
that you did
Unleashed.
read.
Kid Kaiju.
Yeah.
Yeah, created for that. He's a kid, has powers. He can draw any monster existing or that he makes up, and it'll come to life. And I think he can control them.
That is a bummer of a power.
Yeah,
I would
it
just
is. Uh,
draw a lot of boobs.
But they're
Boob
not-
monster.
Yeah, if you draw a boob monster.
Do they have to be monsters?
Can
It's
they
not
be
just anything
Gelfling?
you draw?
Well, I guess if you draw a boob gelfling monster, yeah, that would come to life.
No.
Look at how these
you can't
half-tone
put
dots
boobs
are
on.
being used in Dial H.
But yeah, basically he's somewhere, he's exploring this thing with one of his monster buddies, and he finds this Anatomy of Monsters grimoire, however you say that. And then we get into the cool stuff, which is the drawings. Like the first one is James Stokoe, Fing Fang Foom. And then it's got anatomical breakdowns of the monsters drawn by these different artists. That's pretty cool. It shows like their bioradioactive sacs and that kind of stuff. And it's just all classic monsters from Marvel's, late 50s, early 60s that Jack Kirby
Wow,
created
guess
most of
what?
the
The
things.
art in this is gorgeous.
It is. There's one of the man thing. And somewhere on tiny print it says who the artist is of each of these.
Man.
I don't think.
Thing.
So yeah, that's the cool thing. There's Mangog, so it's as guardian monsters.
So this isn't even a
space monsters.
story. This is just a bunch of monsters.
There's a framing. There's a couple page bookends on each end that
Oh, wow.
give you a story, but this is the book that Kid Kaiju is looking at.
Is it
that he's
Savage
discovered.
Dragon?
I was very nervous that
It's
this was
it's Manphibian
Oh,
very
from
nervous
the
this
Legion
was
of
gonna be
Monsters from Marvel
another
Premiere in the 70s.
unsuccessful monster book from Marvel, but this actually is a very different thing, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's
Yeah.
Allred and Stokoe and Tedesco, and wow.
Yeah, the art is very cool. I think that's
That Art Adams?
That's the amazing thing. Art Adams, I thought was the cover. That's not Art Adams.
it's Brad.
He's not in here. This is that guy Juan that does all the scary books from Avatar. Yeah, he's got one in there. And at the end, we go back to the Kid Kaiju and Elsa Bloodstone shows up and something about monsters and blah, blah, blah. But the main thing is these art pages.
So this is not a series. This really is just.
I don't think it's a series. I think it's setting up some other story to do in the future with those two characters.
Yeah.
But I think this is just a one-shot.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is way cooler than I thought.
Yeah, and for the art alone, not the story, but all the art pages in here, I would give it at least a 9.5. Story-wise, I'd like meh.
There are 10 full splash page pieces of art that show an amazing monster, and then for each of those, there's like an anatomical breakdown, cross-section of each of those monsters. That's actually really cool. I love art. If you are at all interested in monsters or being willing to buy a book on the art alone, this is one to do.
Yeah, if you just want cool monster pages, this is your book. I think Evan Berger and Ashton both appreciate this.
Yeah.
There was I got when I was a kid. We lived in New Orleans still, I think, so I must have been less than 7. I remember being near I think it was the courthouse or the jail or something, some like important federal building in the French Quarter, and I had just gotten a copy of a book about gnomes. It was like a big book of gnomes, and it had like cutaways of their tree homes, and it had like a guy gnome and a girl gnome just kind of standing there, and it had like, little arrows
red
telling
hats
you,
and the
yeah,
little
like
Gelfling
here's the
gnomes.
hat, and they keep bagels under their heads, and like, he's got a pocket knife, and she's got a bag of flour or whatever it was, like just a very detailed book, kind of like that book of pressed fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this book really reminds me of that. Super cool.
Yeah.
What's crazy is how many of these are clearly Kirby creations. Like
Yeah.
when you look at the anatomy,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, Kirby,
Yeah.
Kirby, like Kirby.
Well, Even
Kirby.
Nick Bradshaw has to.
Yeah, it's like
it
the
looks
man thing. It's like
Kirby.
the only one so far that isn't Kirby.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful book, Roman. I'm really glad that you showed me that. That's a good reason to want to check out the YouTube channel or pick up this book in the shop. But we'll show a couple of those images on
Yeah,
there.
because this book's a visual delight.
Speaking of visual delights,
Ooh.
did you guys read Dial H for Hero?
No.
Yes.
Oh, buddy. You know what? This has Dark Knight Returns reference in it.
Django,
It does. Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah.
I've never known anyone who is so satisfied by seeing somebody else reference something that they know.
It's not that I know, it's that I love.
No, you love a reference about anything. You're like, no,
You're
I
right.
think that's a reference to this blah, 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 blah. You're like, no, it's not, but I'm not going to say that because you love a reference.
Dude, okay, you're right. You're right in that I love a reference. In this one, it is all a reference.
The whole thing is a year one reference?
No, to different
there's
references.
like 5 panels of year one references. But,
Well, no,
So,
and-
okay, so
And Dial H is all references.
Dial H
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
and that's what I've liked about the issues that I've read of this series. But in this one, they end up in Metropolis, and everybody has had the opportunity to dial and become a hero.
Yeah.
And so the place is just crawling with heroes, and they are, I mean, they're you recognize them all, and you've never seen any of them. So there's like, this is obviously
Bob's Burgers.
Bob's Burgers. This is Promethea. There's
Yeah, 90s Image.
There's-
Sailor Moon, Mike Allred.
who's this? This guy. This looks like a Winter Soldier, but with 2 metal arms. Right, and you've got Frank Quietly character.
Galactus.
You got a Galactus character. There's Squirrel Girl. There's
the Hernandez
like the
brothers
shitty.
there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Hernandez ones are awesome. And then like yeah, you just keep going, and it's the
These-
Darwin Cook Spirit comics
With the
overlaid by the
Hernandez.
Hernandez
Yeah.
brothers.
Yeah, that was great.
And then here's the Frank Miller
All
gag
red.
right there. There's
Yeah.
dinosaurs and Cadillac.
Yeah,
Cadillacs and dinosaurs.
Yeah, and she's Dundee Rex is her name in this, but that's Hannah Dundee, the female
Yeah.
lead
That
of
Kirby
Cadillacs
machine.
and Dinosaurs.
So we
along
just
with-
said a
what's her name?
bunch of things that you can't see.
And we can't show them all on the YouTube video,
No.
but we'll show some for sure.
Yeah. What is this still an ongoing after this? Did this end the mini, or is
I
this
don't know.
series still going?
I think it's an ongoing.
It's it's got to still be ongoing
Yeah.
because at the end they did another amazing thing where they show you that there's not just the hero phone, which has been blue, right? Or no, red.
Yeah. Well, it's magenta.
It's magenta. There's also a cyan, a yellow, and a black phone, which I don't know if you know anything about the way my brain works, but I like CMYK a lot.
When he said there's something at the end you got to see, I immediately knew it was a CMYK reference. So you didn't say anything. I just knew there was a CMYK reference in there.
I need to get comfortable wearing like magenta or yellow because you wear a lot of cyan.
I do. I like purple, teal, blue, gray, and black is most of my clothing.
We get you some teal. We get me some magenta.
Sean,
John,
Justin will wear yellow.
girl, foot
Colette wears black.
There's
There's a different dude.
surfing dude. I like this issue a lot. I don't really care about the larger story. I just look at the pretty pictures in this series, and
And it's all fun references, like every issue. And I didn't
Yeah.
read this one, but they're all fun because it's referencing a thing that you know about.
yeah, and like this, it doesn't seem like a comic that's written for a 42-year-old or a 36-year-old like Roman.
No.
But they are absolutely just kind of tickling my funny bone
And that-
here.
Splash page is Astro City, and I love when one our male lead Miguel, he finally is able summons up the courage to dial H, and it's just wonderful who he becomes and the way he looks, and it's based on Alex Ross's art, and it's great, totally works.
Yeah.
And then some other heroes show up to help him because friendship and community.
Super good comic. Little Mike Mignola skull going on in there. Yeah.
Wow, that's really fun and really cute.
I don't know how many references there are, but I'll bet you could make a list of 40 or 50 characters that are directly lifted for this.
Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh yeah, there's
This, I think that this is a book that is really great for all ages, but I think that when it's all collected as a single thing, you can give this as a gift to like adults or teens or 20 or 30 somethings. I think there's an appeal to anybody that could read this. There's a sort of a wholesome, fun, like, I get that. If you like that, if you're like Django, everyone should check this out.
Don't be like me.
Be like Django. He's good. Everyone loves him.
Yeah, be like me. I'm good. Everyone loves me.
Yeah. That's my guy. I'm proud of you, Django. So did you give me a score for it?
Yeah, give this a 9.
How many gills would you give it, Jin?
Kaiju Kid. I'll also give it a 9. Maybe even a 9.3.
Gelf.
9-point Gelf, yes.
Well, no surprise, everybody. I want to talk for a second about House of X number 3. I don't have a lot to say about this one. Aside from it was amazing. I loved it. That didn't change at all. But this and the previous issue were the first ones. I mean, like, were really. I think that he spent a good 4 issues setting up an incredibly intricate, complex chessboard.
And now shit's popping off.
But it's while it is popping off, it feels a little less explosive than the crazy concepts he was putting on the table. To me, like, those first 3 issues were like jaw-dropping. This is like, okay, we've established those things. Now let's watch it move forward. I love it. I'm going to give it a 10 because I look forward to it. I loved every page of it. I didn't want it to end the whole time that I was reading it. But it really is very cool. It is setting up the X-Men going on a mission. This is our current timeline. It's the House of X timeline. And it's really cool to see X-Men on a mission. Like, we have a lot of X books, and they've been coming out for a long time, but I don't feel like there's been a lot of, like, everyone to the Blackbird and go blow up this Sentinel thing.
Yeah, they're really, I don't think there have been a lot of tactical things. It's been more dramatic or sending people off to come right back, right?
Yeah, and this is all, still those same things, but it's very dramatic, but it is tactical, and you get these people going to do a thing, and I really liked that. There is also, great infographics talking about, the Omega Sentinel gestation period in a human being, or the illustrating what happened in the 9th timeline of Moira McTaggart and how it relates to this one. There's this great sort of ladder diagram of all these boxes connecting with one another. Django, did you bail on this?
No, I read it.
Okay.
I'm totally current on this series.
And Roman, you read it also?
I haven't read it.
Okay. What did you... I mean, so I know that you're not like Jeff and Justin, like, this is my favorite comic that's come out in years.
Yeah, Hickman's not my favorite, but
right.
I like him just fine.
I can hear the masturbation gesture. But what did you think about it?
I liked this issue a whole lot. The whole time I've liked House a lot more than I've liked Powers, and this one was no exception. The Powers ones have been important because you need to know why they're doing all this stuff, and the action. This is kind of like the Michael Bay side of things, and Powers of 10 has seemed more like, I don't know, like the Danny Boyle side, where you're getting some action, but you're also getting some kind of strange introspection and a lot of setup. I really enjoyed the courtroom stuff with Sabretooth.
Yep.
And I loved the scene at the very end where, spoilers, the suicide bomber guy blows his part of the ship up in order to fuck the X-Men over on their mission. I thought that was really, really well done, and the dialogue between him and his lady friend is really good.
Yeah, and what I love so much about this series is I don't ever know what's coming at all.
Yeah.
And so it just puts you in a state of guessing, and I think a good writer forces the reader to be writing their own story. And that's what this does so much. Like, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe all of those people on that plane are actually, like, maybe they succeed and those are all dead. And now Xavier needs to, like, reclone them from Krakoa seeds or something, like, whatever's happening. Like, it feeds right back into the beginning of the story, feeds into the Powers of 10 stuff that's happening. It is, combining all of these things in a way that lets me use my imagination to the sort of extent of its ability.
Do you think that when this series is over, we're going to want to buy 2 copies of every issue and cut them up and reassemble them into a chronological story, because I am not real clear on when everything is happening.
Well, I think you're supposed to be unclear about that.
Yeah. So, like, I'm sure it's all going to become clear at some point, but I don't think that we even necessarily know whether the Blackbird exploded before or after, or in a totally different timeline than the beginning of the first issue.
Right. Well, so this would be later in the day that the first House of X took place.
Okay.
Because Cyclops went, he tried to get Sabretooth back. He couldn't get Sabretooth back. He went back to Krakoa. He talked to Charles Xavier and Magneto, and they were saying that, like, yeah, we've gotten these blueprints from the Powers of 10 future, or actually from Mystique, and it says that the Orcus organization and Nimrod goes online when this Mother Mold satellite that's circling the sun begins operation. We need you to go and blow it up. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go do that, and this is the team going to do that. There's a really linear...
House has been Moira's 9th life for the most part.
10th life.
10th life,
yeah,
for the most part.
And if you look at the timeline at the end of House of X number 2, the 10th life has a dot that says House of X.
Okay, good.
And so there's still a lot of mystery with what happens in her 6th life, and in her 5th life when she goes into the coma for a year. Something has to have happened there. But we have every reason to believe that this is the 10th life. That's what we're being told it is. And House of X is all supposed to take place in one pivotal House of X is supposed to take place in one pivotal day in the X-Men in an important time, whereas Powers of 10 is 4 different. So this is my favorite run in comics that's come out in the last really healthy amount of time. I love it indefinitely. This is my least favorite issue of the series so far.
So it only gets a 10?
So it only gets a power of 10. I loved every second of it, but it didn't have moments of like spinning my head, which other ones have had.
I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
Liked it a lot. I felt that explosion in space, and I felt the emotions of and the reasoning behind why the dude made the explosion happen.
Right.
And
There's a very emotive.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and just the picture of I know it's not episode 144 gross, but the picture of Sabretooth spitting
was awesome.
I don't think we don't have a letter to the editor or a phone call or an email or anything today, do we?
No, I have an email we could do, but let's not. We'll do it next time.
Okay. I have a question for you guys.
Please.
If Marvel, because I'm assuming that it would go this way, if Disney bought DC, okay, or Disney bought Warner Brothers, do you think that they would try to smash those universes together? Do you think they would just do more crossovers? Or do you think that they would say, okay, we got to put our A-listers from this universe and our A-listers from that universe together?
That's a super interesting question. I think that there would be a period of time, kind of like how Marvel Studios does now have the rights to use X-Men.
Right.
But they're not like, all right, our next movie is X-Men. Like
Right.
they've said, like we're doing this whole thing, and they are going to come in at some point, but they're not dropping everything to make it happen.
It's almost like they're walking around swinging big old dicks of money.
Oh,
And they don't need
ex-boyfriends?
X money.
Oh,
Like they don't need the X-Men money.
okay,
Fox needs the X-Men money.
right.
Right? Because it's part of their business model. But if Marvel buys it from them, then that this is just another thing that they can get around to doing. There's
Did
no
Marvel
rush.
buy? So Sony took Spider-Man back. What's that? Is the X-Men different from that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sony and Fox are separate.
Okay, and Fox had X-Men. Sony had Spider-Man.
Still does.
Okay.
Sony never gave up their interest in Spider-Man.
They shared it, though.
They just shared it with Marvel.
But actually, Marvel Studios does now have X-Men.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they do not have Spider-Man.
Right. I think it would be a really horrible move to try and combine them. And I think that they know that. And I think that you'd get creators writing separate things. And I think you'd get occasional crossovers. But I do think that they would try and keep those continuities separate for a very long time. But we would get your Marvel versus DCs every once in a while.
Because, like, if you put Superman and Tony Stark in a room, you've just printed $1 million to put in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right? And they could do it with TV shows. They could do it with movies. They could do it with What Ifs or Elseworlds or, whatever they want to do. It just occurred to me that that's a very real possibility at the rate that Disney is just like
Warner Brothers
shoving whatever they can inside of their group.
Roman, what would you think about that? How do you feel about that? And if you would rather, feel free to talk about Fantastic Four Yancy Street.
Or Marvel Comics number 1000.
Or that Howard the Duck page in it.
Well, I basically feel what you just said, because I don't give it a whole lot of thought.
Validate my ego.
I totally agree with you 100%.
God, I'm good.
And I don't give it a whole lot of thought because I'm so confused by all of the studio stuff, including what's already happened. People mention it, and I'm just like, whatever. If a good movie comes out of somewhere, I don't know where it's coming from. I just know it's a good movie.
It's a lot like his smells.
Yeah.
If a good smell comes out of him, I don't care. It's just lanyard.
Yeah,
it's just the lap of a yam.
Don't know how that happened, but hey, appreciate it.
Roman,
yes.
Can you show me the first couple pages of Fantastic Four Yancy Street really quickly? Because Brian Swalwell's one of my favorite interior artists.
I can.
And then Django's got to do a spot for us.
Oh, a spot. It's very nice, flat, kind of, it's that thing Django like the Ed Piskor style. Flashback to Ben Grimm's childhood, his brother Daniel, who I don't think we hear enough about, who got killed because of gang activity, and Ben, when he was rich for a brief time, he started a Yancy Street Children's Services community center that's named for his brother, and that plays heavily into the story. Daniel.
Oh, Daniel.
Daniel Grimm. That plays heavily into this story. It's a nice story.
I really like the Smallwood art is.
Yeah, and then when it switched to modern times, it's kind of this. It's nods to Kirby and nods to. Early said. Jeff Sennett that was doing comics.
What I really love, and it is exactly what Ed Piskor does, is these pages, they are printed in a way to make them look yellowed, but this one goes so far as to make the corners even more attic burned.
Oh, you got some foxing.
Yeah, and
step it up, Ed Piskor.
And he might do that as well, but this is just Ed Piskor, when he talks about it, he's talked about the yellow combination that he has saved on his computer to use as the color to put on there. You have to intentionally take a white page and find the right color that you want to put it on there to make it look that way, like an aged paper. And I think that is just a really amazing and dedicated
That
thing.
is so brilliant too. And until Django pointed out, I didn't even notice the little pink bars up at the top. Because
did they do that too?
Yeah, that's such a part of comics of my childhood. I didn't even consciously notice it here. It didn't register as, hey, that doesn't happen in comics anymore because it's not newsprint.
Like the cigarette burns on film.
Yeah.
You know about film, Jeff? It was
I've
before
seen
digital movies.
I've seen movies. I've seen them. I know.
I got the hairs.
I used to watch them melt at my hometown movie theater. What do you give Fantastic Four Yancy Street?
I give it
Fantastic Four Yancy Street.
That's a weird cover choice.
It is. I go to 7. It brought back some obscure old villains. It was a fun story, not fantastic, but it was fun.
My guy.
Another thing came out this week that I'm really excited for, and I'm sorry to everybody that I keep shouting at.
I just did another spot on Hickman's X-Men books.
Yeah, but I feel like I keep recommending this to people, and they just they kind of blow it off because it's Harley Quinn, and I did also. But also, I don't think you've found the way to verbalize why it's touched you the way that it has. And that's the thing is when I hear Django is excited about a Harley Quinn book, I'm like, why is Django trying to sell me this Harley Quinn book? But I know that you genuinely love it, and I haven't heard you refine your sales pitch on it yet. So this is Harley Quinn Breaking Glass by Mariko Tamaki and Steve Pugh. And it's just a really good kind of alternate take on a Harley Quinn coming of age story. So she's like a 15, 13, 14-year-old kid who's run away from home and ends up in I think it's in Gotham. I don't remember. It's been a little while since I read the preview of it, but she ends up living with a bunch of drag queens who eventually have a threat to their lifestyle, and it just has a bunch of really good role models in it. The art is fantastic. Steve Pugh took a year off of doing anything else to do just this comic. And he gets a lot of emotion and a lot of kind of mischievousness. And this, I guess I don't like a lot of Harley Quinn stories because they seem almost too wink at the camera, sort of Deadpool style. I don't think she's a great role model for the people that they're writing her for. And this one is a great role model. This character is a super relatable young person dealing with grown-up things at a time that young people start dealing with grown-up things. So just if you could take Harley Quinn's name off of this and sell it as a Mariko Tamaki book, I think that you would probably have just as much luck as we will selling it as a Harley Quinn comic.
It is incredibly gorgeous.
Yeah,
like
the
it
art's
is
beautiful.
I've never seen a comic book art look this way. And also just hearing you say it's filled with good role models.
And I hate stories with good role models. You guys know that.
But I do love it. But also that being that is a really strong selling point. And that really horrible juxtaposition of just you and describing that as the most appealing you've made it sound to me yet, which is that Harley Quinn is a character who is a really terrible role model, I think, for a lot of the people that are writing these comic books for.
Yeah.
So to get a book that is actually and I think that's one of the barriers that I have with that character is like a lack of respect or likability with them, and to have that injected into it is way more appealing sounding to me.
It's a kind of a rambunctious, a good kid making dumb kid decisions often, but surrounded by good people. I don't know. I wish I could just make everybody read it, because seriously, I've probably read 5 comics that I've said are my favorite comic this year, and this is right there with those, and maybe at the top of the pile.
Yeah, I've mentioned that several times today, but I actually mean it when I keep telling people that you've said that, because the quote that you said is, if this doesn't come out, if they don't change this at all from the reader copy, it will be your favorite book that came out that year. And there's Batman All the Way Down.
Yep.
And I think those are the 2 books that you've said are your favorite books of the year.
My favorite thing is Monsters.
Oh,
that might be last year's book, but I read
yeah.
it this year, and holy shit, that's a good comic too. And honestly, it's kind of a similar setting or a similar genre of teenage kid coming of age. So I don't want to put this in with To Kill a Mockingbird and Neon Bible and Catcher in the Rye, because these are a little more fantastical than those stories, but it's kids kind of becoming adults through their experiences. So they're not being thrown into something super crazy and hairy and dramatic. They're just learning how to deal with stuff through these kind of weird things that happen in the background of your life when you're a certain age, and you take it in and you translate it and try to learn how to live with the fact that, this shitty thing happened to this person that you like. And
every person that has since read this, since you've talked about it, has come back saying that it's amazing. So I'm excited to read it in the next week or two. I think that's all we've got for today. Django, do you got any house cleaning for us?
Well, we're doing the podcast live at the Shakedown on October 3rd. Did that sound
like a radio?
Yeah.
And like you were cleaning the house.
Call me Ron Warner.
Oh, God, I love that guy.
Listen, we're doing that live. We'll have tickets, real physical tickets at the store pretty soon.
It's going to benefit you to try and grab tickets beforehand, because we are going to be giving away comics.
Yep.
Gifts, surprises.
Stuff.
we want to make it a lot of fun. So we really want you to come and bring a friend. Tell somebody that you love this comic shop and you love coming to listen to us talk, or just, it's not even about us. It's really, we're just excited to create a spot where a bunch of people who love comics and love talking about comics will all be together, like a little comic convention without any, booths of people selling stuff. It's mostly just built around getting to hang out in a place with a bunch of people who like the same thing you do. So we really want you all to come, and we're really grateful that everyone listens to this show and seems to be interested in it. So thanks a ton.
And also, we plan to have a segment that will be entertaining and informative, even if you have never read a comic.
Yes.
So I'm not talking to you because you made it to the end of this podcast. You've probably read a comic, but we've been bouncing around some ideas of a way to approach a discussion for people who've never picked up a comic book before or who've been intimidated by them, because, as much as we take this for granted, it can be kind of a hard thing to just jump into and even know, how do you read this crazy thing?
And there's going to be a period of time where we just want people to ask Roman questions. You got questions about Marvel continuity, DC continuity, you got questions about a weird thing, what doesn't make sense to you. We want to give you the opportunity to ask a Roman.
Plus, we'll have Stardate Supplemental, our
Star Trek experts.
Yeah, they're our sister podcast.
No, that's
brother
Infinity
podcast.
Content, but yeah. Brother and sister in Bellingham.
Space sister contest.
Spacester.
Cough.
Listen,
Laugh.
I gotta read a bunch of comics still this week, and I'm really excited for next week's books to come in, and I'm really glad that you guys read more books than I did this week, because you're carrying the water for me, so thanks a ton. Roman's looking at the page in that Marvel 1000 that is Stan Lee. It's after Mobius. Holy shit. The Silver Surfer Parable story. It says after Mobius on it. It's awesome. You can call us at 1-619-663-7336. We would love to hear from you. We had so much fun with the voicemail podcast. Please send us some questions, send us some comments, send us what you want to know.
And if you don't call us, I've seen him do it twice this week. Jeff will ask me for my phone and ambush you and make you do an interview in the labyrinth in the back of the store.
That happened twice this week. It's on the X-Men podcast that I put up yesterday of Justin and I. You should listen to it. Listen to your friend listeners who are now on the podcast. I'm Jeff, and I had a blast tonight, even though I sound subdued. I really like kind of ribbing Roman.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah,
I'm good for... you ruined my shot.
Good for what?
I don't know. What was I saying? I was physically assaulted there, so I don't know what I was saying.
I judged him.
I love this page.
I'm Django, and I gotta say, it's kind of a weight off my shoulders to not be doing episode 144, because I feel like I was in a gross box for like a whole evening there, and I really don't like just being the farty burpy barfy guy. Like
that's not true. You love
it. I wish that I could, expand my
like
role in this thing. I want to be a pimple. I want to be earwax.
You could be the editor. You could edit it.
No, it would just be a fart noise. It'd be an hour and 30-minute fart noise.
Do you have an extra 3 hours a week to toss aside?
Sure don't.
We love y'all. Thanks so much. Hey, Roman, I love you so much. Thanks for being here. You're so goddamn wonderful.
I love you guys.
Man, this store would not be even a fraction of what it is if Roman hadn't worked here forever.
A Matt fraction?
Like, I wouldn't be here. Django wouldn't be here. Amazing. Love y'all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.